Zilke. I'm a member of the management team that plans and organizes these monthly meetings. The purpose of this meeting is to encourage men newly diagnosed with prostate cancer to come with their spouse or partner for support and information during the treatment. A secondary purpose, but no less important, is to continually update those who are being treated or have completed their treatment. It is important that we remember that this is a confidential environment and therefore names and journeys should not travel beyond these walls. Housekeeping, washrooms, start early. It's a long walk. It's all the way down the end of the hall to, I guess, Bay Street. It's on this floor and it's in this building. It's not a shrub on Bay Street. Name tags. The management group that organizes this, and I think there's a few of us here tonight, we have blue stars on our name tags. If you want to talk about the meeting, you have suggestions for speakers or some ideas, we definitely like to speak to you. So contact us after the meeting tonight and we'll chat. Maybe a shortage of the newsletter. So if we run out and you didn't get a newsletter, see Marcy over there. Put your hand up, Marcy. Hi, atta girl. See Marcy and you can get a newsletter. New members. Do we have any new members who want to stand up and share their story tonight? Okay. Announcements. I encourage you to read the announcement sheet handed out tonight. Gives you an idea of the many programs that are offered by the IPC, the Island Prostate Center, in support of prostate cancer patients and survivors. I would like to highlight 3 of the programs that you may find helpful on your particular journey. I've used all 3 of them and they are exceptional. There's the walking group, the exercise group, and the nurse support program. And in addition to the programs I just mentioned, the big 3, the Island Prostate Center at the corner of Yates and Cook, their new abode, has a very good library of books and videos that can be loaned out. So if you are looking for some resource material and wish to research treatments and or other prostate cancer issues, be sure to visit the Island Prostate Center. I should mention at this time, as I always do every time I'm the MC, that all the services and programs of the Island Prostate Center are free of charge, which is quite special. Next meeting speaker, September 5th, we have the famous Dr. Jeff McCracken, and his topic as usual will be Prostate Cancer 101. Dr. McCracken's presentations are always very informative and up to date, and as a result, we usually have standing room only in this room. So those of you that are here and want to hear Dr. McCracken, you may want to come a bit early to get a good seat. So I'm going to introduce the panel tonight. We have a panel presentation. What we're going to do with the panel is I'm going to introduce the 5 members of the panel, and then we're going to have the question period. So wait till all 5 are finished. We've named each of the presenters for you, so you don't have to say, hey, you, or you with a funny haircut or whatever. So as I said earlier, we're not having the usual snack break. Hold all your questions till they've finished their presentation. If we end early, we might break into discussion groups, and we're ready to handle that if that happens. And finally, on your way out, put your tags in the bucket at the front door. So now, we identify our friends here at the table. Firstly, we have Murray and Kathy Tuff. Murray and Kathy met in university at St. John's, Newfoundland, and have been slowly working their way westward ever since, living in Nova Scotia, Ontario, and Alberta before deciding to call Victoria home. Murray is an avid runner and cyclist. Kathy is an avid golfer. Murray is a regular at the Father's Day Walk Run and a past board chair for the Island Prostate Center. Next to Murray and Kathy, we have Rick and Kim Connolly. Kim and Rick have been married 35 years and have 2 daughters. Both are retired from BC Public Service. Rick is a Deputy Minister of Labour and Kim a career in the education sector. Both love golf and one, Kim, is good at it. I don't know. Start practicing, Rick. Rick is the current chair of the Island Prostate Centre of the board. They have been battling prostate cancer together for the last 7 years. And finally, Trevor and Linda Baird. And unfortunately, Linda got the flu, so Trevor is representing the couple. Trevor is 62, he is born in Victoria and recently retired. Linda, who is not here, is 65, born in Edmonton, and also recently retired. They have 3 sons, ages 32 to 40, and they are expecting their 8th grandbaby in December. All right, so I turn it over to you, Murray. Lead it off.
Okay, thank you. So my story starts about 20 years ago when my father died from prostate cancer. That's always on my mind now that I'm living with prostate cancer. My own diagnosis process was kind of this year-long roller coaster. Initially, my family doctor thought she felt something hard on my prostate. And just out of an abundance of caution, she said, I think you should go see a urologist. So I went to see a urologist, and he didn't think there was anything there, but he thought, let's just do an MRI to be sure. Well, the MRI came back negative, and I can't tell you what a relief that was. I hadn't really realized how much knowing that I had prostate cancer, thinking that I had prostate cancer, was affecting me until I was told, no, there's nothing there. But, you know, fast forward a year or so, and my urologist says, you know what, let's just order a biopsy to be sure. And the biopsy turned out positive, and so here we are. So Kathy and I went to meet my urologist together when the biopsy results came in. And after that, we went straight to Island Prostate Centre to visit with Connie, the resource nurse. And when I say straight there, I mean we literally left the urologist's office and drove up to IPC at its old location and sat down with Connie. And we spent a long time with her. And really that was sort of discussing options and where we go from here. Together we took the time to learn about treatment or non-treatment options, but we each brought our own resources to the table. So I went to places like BC Cancer, Inspire Health, and of course Island Prostate Centre. And Kathy talked to a lot of her friends. One of them included past director of oncology at BC Cancer and his wife, who is a psychiatrist. Both were very, very helpful. We went to a lot of courses and consultations, always together. The biggest challenges for me are, well, number one, there's this subtle message, and it's not always said out loud, but it's always there, that a good treatment outcome is 10 years. 10 years? I mean, I was 58 when I got diagnosed, and I'm an otherwise, you know, very healthy, active person. I eat well, I run marathons. Right now, I'm in the process, not right now, but we're sort of taking a short break from cycling across Canada. So I cycle great distances, and you know, up until this point, I really expected that I was going to live to 100. And to suddenly be faced with the idea that I might die before I'm 70, well, it's really difficult to accept as an outcome, and to be honest, I'm not accepting that as an outcome. And the second thing is my dad's outcome. He's never far from my thoughts. He was an otherwise active and healthy man, and he died in his early 70s. So those have been my big challenges.
First of all, make it clear, he is cycling, I'm golfing across Canada. He said we. I have the support vehicle for him. I guess my expectations were a bit different. At first, you know, when I heard it, my thought, we had come to one of these sessions, and I was like, no, you're getting it treated, we're getting it out, it's going to be gone, case closed, everything finished. And then listening to other people and different treatments that they had, then it was time to, okay, maybe we need to sit back and talk about this. And that's when we did the courses, and Inspire Health was quite good, and certainly the IPC. And then came up with we're doing active surveillance, so not doing anything. So for me, it's kind of out of my mind. As far as I'm concerned, he doesn't have cancer because there isn't anything going on. We're just, life is good, we're just carrying on. My biggest challenge is that somewhere along the line, he read about being vegan is very good. So he's changed his diet to be a vegan.
So I'm not strictly
It's
vegan,
not
but it's
strictly.
mostly plant-based.
Close enough. So, prior to this, I had always done the cooking when we had our children at home, and then when we moved here, he had taken on a cooking role. Well, now, if I want anything, I have to eat what he's cooking, and to be honest, I'm not big on vegetables, and I'm definitely not big on a vegan diet. So, back to having to cook my meal, he cooks his meal. So, at this point, in terms of diagnosis, that's the biggest challenge we're facing, is both of us have different diets at the moment.
So one of the questions that we're to answer here is how do we deal with the stressors? And so earlier I said that my dad's outcome is never far from my thoughts. And I guess the way I cope with that is by telling myself that if I only have 10 years left, then I better make them really meaningful. And in a way that kind of feels a bit selfish, but I'm also very convinced that the best chance that I have of a long life is having a very powerful reason to live. And the other thing I would say is that rather than focusing on the fact that I have cancer, I am focusing on the things I can do to be as healthy as I can be, to give my body the best chance of, if not beating it, at least slowing it down so that I do have a long life. So diet and exercise, as you gathered, I'm pretty good at those. I'm trying to bring meditation and yoga into my lifestyle. That's got varying degrees of success. And I'm also trying to reduce stress, but we own a small business together, and reducing stress is definitely not a straight road. So that's it. Has this really affected our relationship? You can answer that.
We've had a very close relationship. Unlike many people, it's just the two of us here in Victoria. We have no other family here in Victoria, so it's always been, my family was in Newfoundland, Murray's was in Newfoundland, and then Ontario. So we've always, for almost all our adulthood, have lived away from family. So we've always been there to depend on each other. So I don't think that has changed at all. I think one thing I should say is that I sometimes, when I said I don't think he has cancer, well, yes, he does, but that's not because I'm in denial. It's just trying to stay positive. There's nothing there. We're not doing any kind of cancer treatments. We're not changing what we do. This cycling just so happened to be, he decided that he's turning 60 in a couple of weeks, so he just decided, this was a good way to celebrate being 60, was go across Canada. Plus, he immigrated to Canada 50 years ago, so it's just more now he gets these weird, wonderful ideas of, oh, let's do this, let's do that. So life is, we're just carrying on, and as I say, it's more our business is getting in the way of our having more fun, but we're just going as life is normal. So, I guess we're fortunate at this point that it hasn't impacted our life at all yet.
So if anything, I would say it's brought me closer to the rest of our family, and that's both on Kathy's side of the family and mine. I've been very open with everyone about having prostate cancer, including the newspaper, that sort of thing. So yeah, anyone who knows me knows. But in return, they've all been very supportive, and that's been really helpful. The last thing we were asked to discuss is, do we have any advice to others and couples that are just beginning this process?
Oh, sorry. Well, mine was very short. So get as much information as you can. There's a lot of places out there besides the internet. There's great resources at our prostate center. As we said, that was our first stop, and I think Leanne was probably shocked when she saw us coming through the door and not heading to her office, but going, in to see the nurse. I think she knew then, wait, no, there's something up here. So I think, she was kind of shocked, but, life goes on, and then we went to Inspire Health. If you haven't been to Inspire Health, they have some amazing resources there as well, and it's like on the Prostate Center, it's free. So if you haven't checked them out, I'd certainly recommend checking out their resources as well.
So my big one would be, and maybe this won't surprise you, but my big one would be, what's your reason for living? And be really, really clear about that before making any decisions, because it'll help to guide your choices. So in my case, one of my most powerful reasons for living is I kind of live for the next great adventure. So, and I've always got several at various stages of planning, and I don't always share them with Kathy right away. so as you've gathered, this summer it was all about cycling across Canada. So, next summer I hope to ride the Dempster Highway from Puck to Uptuck. And in between all these big adventures, there are lots of small adventures. We go on trips together, and just about every weekend is a micro adventure of some sort. It could be as simple as just going on a new hiking trail, or sometimes it's an epic weekend of running, cycling, and camping. Thank you. So there's just always stuff that's going on, big and small, and getting any kind of treatment, like even if the outcomes are perfect, any kind of treatment would seriously interrupt all of that. And that's my big reason. It's not my only reason for living, but it's one of the big ones. And a less than ideal outcome from treatment could put an end to most of that. I mean, yes, we'd still have adventures, but they wouldn't be the ones, the physical, get out there and run and ride and do all these things that I'm doing today. So yeah, that really guides my decision-making process. The other thing is I would share is share everything with your partner. We do. As soon as I hear something, a test result, or if I'm feeling a certain way about my diagnosis, we'll talk about it. But also share with your family and friends. It was very difficult for our daughters to hear what was going on. But we keep them up to date every single step along the way, and you'll just be surprised by the love and support that you get from all the people you talk to.
And I'll just reiterate about sharing, because probably when we got this diagnosis, the only thing that probably, I say, made me a little angry was Murray's dad did have prostate cancer, but his parents did not share any of his journey, any of the information of when it started, what happened, it was like he had it, and then all of a sudden, by the time we found out he had it, it was bad, and it was less than 2 years and he was gone. So, but he had it for a long time, which we discovered well after the fact, and only when Murray got diagnosed. So, for those of you out there who have, especially those of you who have sons, all I can say is share and share and share and tell them everything, because if you're gone, they may not, they come down with prostate cancer in 20 or 30 years' time. They need to know what it was that you went through, and to make sure, am I going to be going through the same thing? Murray's dad had a brother who had prostate cancer, and he didn't die from it. He died from something else, but lived to be 90. But his father didn't. He died from prostate cancer. So, it's kind of which way is Murray's cancer going to go? And if we had had more information from what his dad went through, I wouldn't be as stressed as I was. So, share, please share. You're up.
Me? Okay, thanks, Murray. What I've learned about prostate cancer, it affects everybody differently, and everybody's got a different journey with prostate cancer. 11 years ago, I lost my best friend to prostate cancer. He was only 55. He was diagnosed and died within a year, and that really shocked me. And then 7 years ago, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer with the ever-popular digital rectal exam, and I went for a biopsy after the doctor found something, and then I went away to Panama for 4 weeks. And I got home, the night I got home, I got a phone call. That's the doctor telling me I had cancer. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard over the telephone that you've got cancer, but I mean, the call was about 45 minutes long. I remember the first 1 minute of conversation that I had cancer, right? And you think right there when he says cancer, you're going to die tomorrow, right? You're kind of, I mean, it's just, it's, you know, overwhelming. So the hardest thing we had to do right away is tell our daughters. And the one thing that was hard is our youngest daughter was in Germany. So we had to have a Skype call with her about me having prostate cancer. And you can't, you know, hug them and hold them and console them. It's just, it's really tough. My, I guess, battle with prostate cancer is like a marathon. Because I, unlike Murray, I run the gambit of treatments now. It started with a radical prostatectomy, which went well, and I thought, wow, this is good, life's good. And then we found out a little later that it had actually escaped the prostate. And so a year later, I went for radiation. And that seemed to kind of knock the crap out of everything. My PSA went really down to kind of 0 or sub-zero. So I thought again, life was good, right? And we all know how you watch the PSA lottery, you know, good news, bad news. Well, it creeped up again. And so after that, I went to UBC for a PET scan. And the good news now, we have a PET scan machine now in Victoria that's just been announced is here. So I went to UBC and had a PET scan. And the good news is I didn't light up like a Christmas tree. But the bad news is they did find 4 little spots on me. So from there, you know, I talked to my urologist and he said, well, let's do a pelvic laparoscopic surgery. So that's basically day surgery. I went in and they used their little microscopic things and go in, and he was able to get 3 of the pieces out, and one he couldn't find. It was nose. He couldn't get the 4th out, so but that was fine. And then again, PSA took a big plummet, and then another year or so goes by, and the thing starts to go up again. So my doctor suggested, well, you know, we can watch it. Or there's a new treatment happening in Australia, and I think Dr. McCracken has done that presentation before, lutetium-177. So he said, well, if you can afford it, you might as well try it. So Kim and I hopped on a plane for 14 hours, went to Australia in May, and had the treatment. And it's amazing. You fly there for 14 hours, you get there, and the treatment is 15 minutes. I should say 15 minutes and 11 grams. And so they literally inject about a vial of this lutetium into your system. It takes about 15 minutes to get into your system. Then you're there for about 5 hours because they put you on a saline solution, just basically peeing it through your system so that you're not radioactive. And they come every hour with a yardstick and a Geiger counter, seeing how you are. And once you're okay, they let you go. So we did one treatment of that in May, came back, did blood work, and again, with that treatment, you're in touch with a specialist over there too. And the blood work was good. And at that time, my specialist there and urologist from Victoria thought, well, let's maybe try another treatment.
So it didn't go down as much as they had hoped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And see what that does. And so we just went back a week ago. We just got back on Monday, actually. And I got another round of it, a lesser dose. And again, the doctor says, you know, the blood's looking good and all that. As I say, it kind of kicks the can down the road, because with the lutetium, it does kill some of them that it finds, others it kind of knocks out, and then you kind of just hope for the best.
It's not a cure, but they hope for a remission.
So throughout this marathon, I had a good running partner in Kim. And when I started this, I was, you know, in kind of, I wouldn't call it denial, but kind of, as we were talking about too, kind of the macho thing. Well, I'll just keep it inside and I can kind of get it out. And that was probably the worst thing. And through Kim and Kim's support, and getting me to talk openly with family and friends, it kind of lifted a load off, made me feel more positive about the journey. And so Kim's been there all along this journey and has encouraged me, as Murray says, to talk about it. Talk about it to your family, talk about it to your friends. You know, thank goodness for me, I don't have any sons to pass this on to. I just have daughters. But I think it's really important to raise that awareness to everybody.
And to brothers
Yes.
as well. Some of the biggest challenges.
Yeah, I'll let you,
Yeah, well-
you can wade in if you
Well-
want. Okay.
We're supposed to answer what are some of the biggest challenges you faced, and for me, I guess expecting a cure at each level of treatment, thinking, okay, this is going to be a cure, and not having that happen. So that's the challenge. But you never know. We're still hopeful. What about you?
Well, I think the biggest challenge is, again, always staying positive, always putting it in, you know, putting positive frame of mind and remembering it's nothing. For some reason, I think sometimes men feel ashamed about telling people that they have prostate cancer. And I think it's very important to share that story. And it's very important to be really open and honest with your kids and, you know, the rest of your family and your friends about what's going on, how's the journey going, how you doing, right? Because I find, you know, the monthly PSA tests are always an adventure. You know, you look at them and you go, whoa, good news. You look at them, whoa, bad news, right? And I think you just got to remember to put those in your back pocket, put things in perspective. And I totally agree with Murray. It's, you know, you need to do good things for yourself too, which is having a positive frame of mind, eating well, exercising, and also
Fun and laughter.
yeah, fun and laughter, and relieving the anxiety in yourself by not being afraid to talk to people about it.
How did you deal with these? Well, another thing is just reminding myself, the research is always up and coming. You know, I heard about something recently on the news, and you know, whether it'll be applicable to prostate cancer or not, I'm not really sure. But you know, there's always promising treatments up and coming. The lutetium treatment that Rick had is one of those, and he is one of the second man in Victoria to go back for a second treatment. I think there's been 3 in Victoria that have had the treatment, that have gone, and Rick's gone for a second time. So, see how that goes. Whatever. Do these challenges affect your relationship? I think it just made us stronger, rely on each other more, as we always have.
And I think it's made me more open and honest, sharing with family and friends about everything, not just about prostate cancer, but sharing. And it's good to share with people, right? It's good to. And the one thing that I find when you talk to them about it, they're all so supportive, you know, and you wonder why you didn't do it along, you know, further back.
Advice. I think for people, just as Kathy said, you do your research up front. There's a lot, a variety of ways to treat prostate cancer, and as you see, there's different ways to approach it, and depending on your diagnosis, because there's different severities of prostate cancer, so you just have to do your research.
But I think, I guess my biggest advice is to be open and honest with yourself and open and honest with your family and friends. And don't try to take the burden upon yourself and keep everything inside. I feel so much better when I talk about it to the girls or Kim or even any of my friends. So I guess that would be my best advice to everybody is don't shoulder the burden on your own. You've probably got a solid partner beside you, and certainly if you have kids, they'll want to know and they'll want to be supported. That's it.
Hi, my name's Trevor. I was 3 years old when cancer visited me the first time. I had a tumor in a sweat gland. It's amazing what you can remember. People say you don't remember that age. And I can remember Aspergum, very specifically. And I remember views out of the hospital windows, confirmed many years later by my parents that I was actually looking out there. When I grew up, a lot of people thought I was going to be a stunt double. I kept hurting myself, wrecking myself. And out of that, I got a lifetime appreciation for doctors. It's really, really important to establish a relationship with all levels of doctors or nursing that you're involved in. They have the knowledge, but you're not a cat. You can pass along information and bounce it off your doctor, and you know what you're going to let your body go through. You're going to know what extent you're willing to go. So choose your doctors very carefully. Because of all these injuries, in my early 20s, I started doing yearly physicals. At 40, I started and asked for and got a prostate exam at 40 years old, every second year. At 50, we kicked it up to every year, plus the PSA test. And at 53, I have a diagnosis. I was very fortunate at that time to have Dr. Paul Pereira as my GP. He's a wonderful man. And he called me up and told me to come in. Not in his words, he said, that's why God invented specialists. And off he sent me to urologist. I was very happy for that because he didn't want to play. My first PSA test came back at 1.1 at 53 years old. So he just didn't want to leave it. So he very wisely selected Dr. Jeff McCracken for me. That's another one great break I got in my life. Initial insult with Jeff. Just so I stop for a second. What I'm trying to do here is my wife's very sick today, so I'm actually rewrote everything. I'm trying to stick both of us together. So I'm just trying to give both of us. So our original instructions from Jeff and his secretary were to come and meet as a team. Okay? So the team is Jeff, my wife, and me. That became very fabulous, very quick. He said, make sure you bring all your questions. I figured, this guy can't be very busy. I got like 2 days worth of questions. But it was very awesome, respectful, initial, and every other visit with him. This approach from the beginning with my wife and I doing this allowed us to focus on us, not just me. And that, sorry, I'm a very emotional person. That's something that allowed us to step outside a little bit, just to kind of get outside of it. Linda and I both had a lot of brushes with death young in our life when we were young. So we managed to be able to kind of put the death set aside and to actually think, to move through where we were going and not keep walking into walls. The diagnosis is not always negative. Sometimes it is negative, but sometimes we have to take out of that pieces in our life. So I looked at it like it was discovered. It's not crawling around me without me knowing what's going on. There are options. And also, we're in 2010 for me, not 210. So we have advanced medical stuff, we have people to talk to, we've got different things. And for me, I'm like the rest of the panel here, a fabulous partner. Sorry, I'm just trying to put it all back together. So when we went and saw Jeff, what the process was a series of PSA tests. So in a 2-month period, we went from 1.4, 3.1, 3.4, 5.7. Shikabooga bang. It was like, uh-oh. And so his suggestion was that we get a biopsy. At no time, my doctor or Jeff or anybody had ever felt anything irregular with my prostate. Nobody ever actually felt it. So the only thing that gave them the indication that there was something there was a PSA test. So don't tell me that the PSA tests are a waste of our medical dollars. It saved my life. And I've heard that from more than one person. We got the biopsy done, and the return was 3/4 of the samples came back positive. We knew, oh. Talk about walking into a wall. I spent my whole life eating and living well. I've been a vegetarian since I'm 15 years old, 47 years old. I've eaten well, I've exercised well. So what's up with this? Why do I get this? I was outraged, angry, and really scared. Like really scared. Now all the whirlwinds of emotions heads for you. You've got your own, you've got your families. I have 3 boys. There's that secession to think about. For me, in some ways, this part of the part was the best part for me because I was completely involved. Getting cancer and diagnosing it wasn't me. But now I got to be involved. And I'm really impressed with you. Be involved for whatever you do. I got to be involved with the doctors, with my wife. And I looked at deciding everything. I got to decide the process, and I got to be comfortable with the process. And I think that's so important. The mental side of it is so, so, so important. Linda and I went through lots of emotions. Everything is a challenge. We have a very, very deep and loving, committed relationship, but at times it really got challenging. Mostly me freaking out. Linda always insisted through the whole process that I get to make the final decision. But that's not reality of what was happening. What was happening is we painstakingly went through everything, talked to people, listened to people, read stuff together. And then we came up with what we thought we would do. For me, and my journey's a lot different, but because my cancer was so aggressive, and because of my young age and my relative healthy body, we opted for radical prostatectomy. So it's what I figured fit for me. It's not necessarily what may be the best choice for somebody else. Everybody must take that at what's good for them and figure it out. So we decided, it was right near the end of November, we decided we'd put it off till Christmas. So flew down south and spent a few weeks somewhere just kind of, and then when we came back, we had surgery in early January. The surgery was scheduled, as you know, it's about 2.5-hour surgery. But in the interim, we found out later, my prostate had adhered itself to the bladder, and so we were over 6 hours in the operating room. Surgery to me was a little bit anticlimactic because it just kind of, I didn't have anything to do but get better. Originally, it was a lot of pain. Then for me, it was walking on eggshells, waiting for the first PSA test after the surgery. Wait. It comes back to 0. Nothing. And then we just wait every month as they're talking about that. I went 3 years they'd given for me, and I had nothing, we've stopped. Through that whole process, and it all sounds so easy, right? But it was working with professionals and letting them guide me. I know I listened too intently sometimes, so when I got sent home from the hospital, Jeff said, okay, gonna have to make sure that you get lots of sleep, drink lots of water, get some exercise, and push yourself. Oops, wrong guy. So on day 3, I went for a 1.5 kilometer walk. I came back really tired, really sore, and testicles the size of pencils. I called Jeff up, and was he mad? He was screaming at me. I spent 6 hours. He was right. He was totally right. He was completely right. Fortunately for me, though, everything settled down from that. It was 5 months from when I was diagnosed until when I was back at work. So I got diagnosed, went through the options, went through the surgery, and back to work. I for a long time, I couldn't talk to anybody about this other than my friends and family because I felt a bit embarrassed. Because everything I'd read was that this was a crazy long journey. And I'm like, I'm still sitting a bit like, did I really get a chance to move on? Did it actually happen to me? And so it was kind of hard for me to talk to people because I didn't want to be happy about that. Here I am, it's 9 years now. I'm about 95% pre-surgery. I have normal sexual activity. I have no incontinence. I'm cancer-free. I'm one of the lucky ones, but it's a journey that's never going to leave. It's going to be there. I'm worried about my brothers. One of them's got some things that aren't looking great, and I've got 3 boys, and one of them's 40, one's 38, and one's 32. Right? They're starting to head to that territory. Right? Fortunately, they are keeping things in front of them. I've talked to them all along. For what do? Like, my relationship, if anything, got strong. If it got anything, it got stronger because we leaned on each other very deeply to get this done. I don't think there's another way to do this in a partnership than to use the strength of both of you. I think people have to remember that you're a whole lot stronger than you think you are. A whole lot. In 2019 now, we have some awesome options and lots of help. Just remember, don't waffle. Seek help. Talk to your friends. Lean heavily on your loved ones. And be involved as your mental state can seriously cause problems in recovery. You can get in the way of yourself. It's your life. Just remember the answers are within you. That's kind of my statement.
Okay, thank you, panel. So, let's fire up the questions. I have one for Rick.
Yep.
Rick, so you've gone for the second treatment in Australia.
Yep.
Is there ever a third considered, or is that too far out?
When they set it up originally, they say there could be 4 treatments.
Okay.
I've had 2, and my prognosis now with my blood work and all that is that I shouldn't need any more.
Good.
But again, you never know.
Yeah, right,
I keep
yeah.
thinking I'll be cured tomorrow, so.
Yeah. Recurrence is an ugly animal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I have to say, I mean, the first time, the only side effect, I was tired for maybe, 5 or 6 days, and that was it. And then this time with a less dosage, I was tired for maybe 1 day. And that's it, that's the only side effect.
Huh. Interesting. Thank you.
Rick, any idea when this treatment will come to Canada?
I don't know. I think the positive thing now is we have the machine here, the PET scan machine here in Victoria. They do also do the same treatment in Germany and as they do in Australia. So
There was a big donation given, millions of dollars, to pursue this treatment in Canada, but Dr. McCracken told Rick he would be one of the last ones to receive it, because initially they will give it to people who are further on down the line, who've had hormone treatment, who've had chemo, and it would be like a last resort kind of treatment. In his case, they're using it as early to before hormone treatment, before possible chemo treatment, to see if we can kick that down the can down the road, as he likes to say, and not have to have those treatments as early.
but I know the specialist, Dr. McFarland, that treated me in Australia has been up to Canada several times, speaking at places like UBC and all of that about this type of treatment. So I guess the more you get the word out, and if it's successful, then the more opportunities something
It may be
will
something Dr.
happen, right?
McCracken will talk about
And
next
cer-
month.
Yeah.
certainly, it'd be good if the Americans picked it up. People always seem to follow suit with the Americans too. So.
Yeah, part of Dr. McCracken's presentation is always the latest.
Yeah.
And what's on the horizon.
Right,
So,
and we went to his presentation, must have been about a year ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he did talk about it there.
Yeah, we try to have them each September. Yeah.
Just one other question. What city in Australia did
They
you
actually offered in, I think, 3 cities. I went to Sydney, just because I wanted to see Sydney. But they also offered in Melbourne, Sydney, and just one other.
Adelaide?
Brisbane?
Brisbane.
No, it wasn't Melbourne. I think it was Sydney. Brisbane, and isn't there one on the west coast?
Oh, Perth, maybe.
I think it's Perth, yeah. But it's an international, I mean, there were people from all over the world being treated at the same time as Rick. So they're coming.
Rick, what is the name of the treatment? What do they call that?
Lutetium-177.
Can you spell that?
That's not his forte.
Just type in zero.
Probably tell you exactly. Stretch your brain.
That's the spousal support at work.
I think it's LITSEUM.
And you said 177?
Yeah,
What's the 177 mean?
that's the isotope.
I
It's
see.
a radioactive isotope.
All right.
And what it does is it actually adheres to prostate cancer, apparently has receptors. And the lutetium adheres to those receptors. So that goes on a seek and destroy mission. And again, with some of them, it actually destroys it, some of it kind of just knocks it out for a while.
I see. And who is the contact there and where?
The place is called Theranostics.
Theranostics?
Theranostics. And again, they're quite a big company there because they run it in several different cities. And I think they're making a lot of dough from it because when I was there, Japanese were coming through the door with interpreters. And probably when I was getting my treatment, there was 5 of us there, one time. The other time I was there were about 7. Because, when you get your treatment, you're basically in a lounge chair. They have a TV screen, you've got your own private area. They shoot it in you, and then for the next 4 hours, you're just drinking fluids and going to the bathroom. And that's the treatment.
Do you know if this is for various types of cancers or is it just
This is just
specific?
prostate cancer. Focus on prostate.
Hmm.
I have a question for Murray. Well, you're very active and stuff, and I just always think about the anxiety you must have when you face a cancer diagnosis, but you just strongly feel like exercising and living that active life is probably something you can control, and then also like is a very strong reliever of anxiety and everything as well. Like, would you say you're a big advocate for that lifestyle and all that kind of stuff?
Yes, I mean, that's true. It is for me a way of feeling like I have some control over it. Whether in fact I do or not, I don't
Yeah.
know, but it feels like I'm doing something. But also for me, my PSA is rising very, very slowly. And so nobody, including Dr. McCracken, is saying that I need to rush into anything right now. So I have the luxury of time, which not everyone has.
Yeah.
So I'm making the most of whatever time there is.
Are you getting treatment right now for,
No, just
Not at all,
strictly active surveillance. I get a PSA every 3 months, a rectal exam every 6 months. I think it's an MRI every year, and probably a biopsy every 2 years. And we'll just stick to doing that and hope that it doesn't really show signs of becoming more aggressive.
is your PSA in normal range right now, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's 2.6.
189?
You know, in a lot of respects, that's very low. It wouldn't normally set off alarm bells, but then I think Trevor said his journey started at 1.1. And, you know, the alarm bell went off right there, so, yeah.
It's partly why I say I don't really feel like he has cancer, because, you know, I hear other people with high PSAs and, you know, some think, well, this is like next, you know, it's only just gone up to 2, you know. It was down, but it was 1.3 when it was discovered, so, you know, you could say it's doubled in a year, but. it's
I think
still-
that my understanding from talking to, listening to Dr. McCracken, is it's not actually the number, it's the doubling factor.
Yeah.
And when you get to a doubling factor of 6 months, that you double your number, so if you double 0.5 to 1, that's
Yeah. It's the
worth
speed, yeah.
being looked at. So I have spelling for lutetium. LUTETIUM -177.
Trevor, are you
What?
still getting PSAs?
No, they stopped after 3 years. There hadn't been a single number on it.
Not even an annual PSA?
Nope, nope.
Um,
I saw Jeff the last time 3 years ago
Right.
anyway.
Okay, good.
I'm, though that's my question when I go to my yearly thing, just throw it in for giggles, please. You know, but,
All right. So any other questions? Yeah.
I can't remember whether it was you, Rick, or Murray talked about having an MRI that didn't show anything. Was that you, Murray?
Yeah.
Any comments about that at all?
No, according to Dr. McCracken, it happens, and often in the cases that are the least worrisome ones, it's the ones that show up on MRI that are more important. But it also means that if I do have to have any kind of surgery, or even for targeting a biopsy, they've got nothing to target. They can't, you know, they don't know where they're looking.
Right.
So that's the negative of it.
Has he ever recommended a PET scan instead of CT?
Not yet.
My understanding of the PET scan too is that you have to meet certain criteria in BC before you qualify for a PET scan. You have to have your PSA over 3.5 3 consecutive times. I think that's the number. But of course, as we know, 3.5, you know, PSA it doesn't really matter what the number is, but anyway, that's the rule in BC, and so Rick didn't qualify for PET scan because it was over 3.5 for 3 separate times, so that may be why you don't have it. But the PET scan lights up all the different areas that the cancer is in your body. On the light, it lights it up, and then they know, that's why they knew with Rick that it was at that time constrained to his groin area, so they, in the nose. So they knew that he thought he could do successful surgery and get them all. It's just he couldn't find them, that was really small.
A question for Trevor. You spoke of the prostate being right up against the bladder wall for when they were doing your surgery. So did the surgeon have to take any of the bladder wall out, or was there any?
As far as I understand, was that he had to do the surgery, again, the way he explained it was, he had to make the cut where if it's too deep into the prostate, you have risk the cancer escaping the capsule.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you're too far out, then you take out the sexual sensors, which they're taking off and they're going to put onto your bladder. When they do that surgery, if you don't know, that's how they try to ensure that you have some sexual activity. So they take your sensors and they now put them onto your bladder. So he had to separate the two and then move stuff. So I didn't get any more detail than that.
Okay, so it probably didn't impact on your.
It didn't affect me.
The bladder at all.
It hasn't affected my bladder at all. The only thing I have is the I gotta pee now isn't there. so it'll be like, I gotta pee right now. Right? I don't have accidents because I'm getting better at staying ahead of the game. Okay, I've had 1 beer and 2 glasses of water. Even flew over that.
Right.
But it's been that for me. I guess he had a great day because he really the results for me were very good.
Very good indeed.
For all three of you, when the surgeon did perform the surgery, did he take out any lymph nodes in the prostate area?
When I had my laparoscopic procedure, he took out lymph nodes.
Yeah.
That's the only time? He didn't do it
That's the only time.
during surgery?
Because they thought it was constricted to the prostate when you did the initial
Right.
prostatectomy.
Yeah.
And then he came back and said it wasn't.
Right. How about you, Trevor?
Mine was in the prostate only, and I believe he took out the nodes just because.
So he did take some?
He did take them, and he said, I just think we should, you're too young, and and that was
Yeah.
his reasoning. I'm going like, I'm sold, you know? Because it said, on my paperwork, that's what it did say. It said, it was, and then there was 2 nodes, I believe, that were moved. I can't remember.
But did those nodes show anything? Did they come back benign?
They came back negative.
And yours, Mary?
I haven't had any surgery.
Oh, you did? Oh, yeah.
So
Sorry.
yours came back positive. So
Well, he'd already had the PET scan, but they knew they were. So then he actually, through the PET scan, he knew where they were and how many were on each side. And he was able to target, as a surgeon, go in and.
I would question it more. I got a feeling he had to take mine out because of what had happened. Quickly, I guess, within the accounts.
Murray, I can't recall, did you have a biopsy?
Yes.
You did.
Yeah,
So
that
each
was
one
the
of you
one-
had a biopsy.
I'm
You remember
sorry.
what your Gleason scores were, each one of you, from the biopsy?
9.
9?
I don't remember mine, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Murray's was a 6.
My wife would remember.
I just know it was high.
9's high.
8.
So Murray, did you have a targeted biopsy?
No.
How long ago was it?
It was a year ago.
A year ago?
Yeah, there was nothing they could target because the MRI didn't show anything.
Oh,
So,
yeah, okay,
yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
And Murray, how many needles came back positive?
Oh, yeah, I can't remember.
Right.
So
Must have been a low number then, right?
It was, I mean, Dr. McCracken was very clear, he said if you have to have a diagnosis, this is the best possible one you could ever have, this is a great outcome.
And so Murray, you mentioned this before, I'm sure, but what is your method of determining whether you do anything more? Like you have a PSA test
Yeah.
and a digital test every 6 months, or?
Yeah, the digital's every 6 months, the PSA is every 3 months. It'll be a combination of everything. We're doing another MRI in November. We haven't scheduled the next biopsy, but I assume it'll be another year. And we'll do another biopsy, so it'll be a combination of everything. And if any of it looks like it's starting to get more aggressive, we'll be having a different conversation.
Right.
You know, if my Gleason goes up to 7 or 8 or something.
Right,
it's
and
a
then
very
decide.
different conversation.
Yeah, decide whether you do another biopsy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, no criticism of the medical profession, but there is a certain amount of pressure to get treatment. And, you know, in my case, it was just presented as if you do something now, you can be very sure that it's never going to affect you again. So, you know, that's something we deal with. Am I making the wrong decision doing nothing? On the other hand, I mean, even a great outcome means I'm out of action for 6 months. And, you know, if I'm out of action for 6 months, for instance, I'm probably not going to be cycling from Tuptayapta next summer. It's not a good outcome for me.
So would you have had the option to have your prostate removed?
Oh, it is, very much an option, and still is.
Right.
And, yeah, it just, at this stage, it doesn't seem like the right decision. As Kathy said, my dad died from it, but my uncle lived to be 90 and died from other things. So I'm kind of hoping I'm on my uncle's trajectory, and statistically, I'm far more likely to be on my uncle's trajectory. But you don't really know, do you?
So is Kathy running with you or biking with you from Tuptayapta?
I drive the RV so he has a nice place to be at the end of the day. We bought an RV just to do this trip. No, I'm golfing. Do as much golf as I can.
Okay, well, if that's it, we can have a snack break, and we will break into treatment groups after we have a 10-minute snack break. One thing there, we found this evening, I was informed that Men's Health Day is going to go ahead. The date has changed, but with the help of Life Labs, a doctor has been found who is willing to support the 700 plus tests that we do at Men's Health Day. So those of you that had heard the bad news earlier that Men's Health Day was going to be canceled, it is going to go ahead, but we don't know the date at this point. It's certainly not going to be the September date that we all know that was announced. They've had to tell the sponsors need quite a bit of lead time, so they had to cancel it so as the sponsors knew what was going on. But we've had Life Labs has stepped forward and said they're willing to do the tests and cover the costs, so that's great. So Men's Health Day is going ahead, we just don't know the dates. And I mean, it's fairly significant when we test close to 700 men a year. So anyway, let's have some snacks, and thanks again, panel. That was great. People want come and talk to you individually? You up for that? Okay. So if anybody wants to approach our panel members, and certainly we got lots of goodies here.